This is an amazing question. It's been brought up before, and this will help clear some things up for people. What are the differences in types of training when an athlete is in season, has a game the day before, the day of, and the day after? How does training change to accommodate that in our facility? Before we dive headfirst into that topic, we have to lay the foundation of what sprint training isn't and the perception that most people have of sprint training. If you grew up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or early 2000s, your perception of sprint training is down and backs, hill sprints, run till you can't run anymore. That is a cardiovascular event. That is trying to build your capacity. That is true conditioning, and that is very, very much needed in specific instances to get success in the third and fourth quarter. But what that isn't is sprint training. That is not true sprint training with any good track and field coach or any private coach. That is a cardiovascular event. So most people's perception is you do sprint training, you run these kids absolutely dead. That isn't the case, and now we know what sprint training isn't. So what is the true sprint training, and how does it change for athletes with a game the day before or the day of? Now, true fundamental sprint training focuses on the three parameters that make a better sprinter or make a better athlete: acceleration, max velocity, and how well you can change direction. So instead of suicide drills or down and backs, where it's just a cardio event where we're trying to make you do as much as you possibly can with the smallest amount of rest, we invert that. We're doing the minimal that we can with the max amount of rest. So for instance, if we're doing a 15-yard acceleration sprint and it's a total of 2 seconds, we are resting at the minimum 1 to 3 minutes to bring that heart rate all the way down to the new resting level that the athlete's at. And truthfully, I have to hold back the athletes from trying to go and go and go with minimal rest, because that's what they're conditioned to do. And a lot of athletes get bored and don't know what to do with this huge increased amount of rest. With very high intensity sprinting, the highest velocities you can go, and maximal rest periods, you have very minimal load on the athlete, very minimal mileage, and very minimal effects that are going to take over through the games or through practice or throughout their day. So we have a solid foundation of what sprint training truly is. Now, how does it change for athletes that they're training and they have a game tomorrow or they have a game today? Our speed code is developed to match the demands of every single athlete. And every decision that we, not me, we as an organization make, is this the best thing for the athlete? That drives every decision that I make. It's not, is this best for the Instagram views? Is this best for the business? Is this best to make it look good? No, it is the best decision for the athlete. If the answer is yes, we do it. If the answer is no, we don't. And I take that very, very seriously. That is something that we track so much data that if I was making a hindrance on an athlete, my data would show it because I'm tracking too much data. We track so much data that we know if we as coaches are doing our job right or if we're doing our jobs wrong. So with an athlete training on the day of a game, are they doing max velocity sprinting? No. Athletes with a game that they're training on the same day, they come in, they do their foam rolling, they get anything that is tight loose, and the first and only thing that they're doing is high intensity plyometrics. Just like any profession in the world, I could go to a farmer rancher and he knows every single thing about that certain niche of the market, right? In my world, I have researched many, many hours to know that plyometrics at a high intensity with low volume is the best thing that an athlete can do pre-game. So it gets back to that answer. Is this the best thing for this athlete today? Not as a group, not with 10 athletes. It's that individual athlete. They have a game today. Is this the best decision for them? Should they do plyos? Yes, we move forward. So they come in, they make sure anything that hurts, they're fixing it. We're going through myofascial release, stretching, and mobility. They do their plyometrics, and then guess what they do? They go straight to recovery. Compression boots, EMS, hot cold plunge, sauna, red light therapy, whatever it is, depending on the athlete, specific to that athlete, they are doing recovery to make sure they are ready for that game. They're not doing high intensity sprints. They're not sprinting until they can't talk and walk at the same time. They are recovering specific to their needs for that game. It's super unfortunate when looking from the outside in, all you see is sprint training. So the assumption is that every single athlete that has a game, that doesn't have a game, that is in 4 sports, that's in 1 sport, is doing the exact same thing, doing sprints on that day and just running them dead. And to be completely honest, it's super unfortunate because of the time and value that we bring to it to make it so individualized at a top tier level for that athlete so that they have the best chance of being the best athlete possible and making the most impact. The amount of work that we put into that is undeniable and insurmountable. And I wish people from the outside looking in that watch social media, that see we're sprinting every day and banging kids up and doing all these things, could really just see the back end of how much data we have to prove the points that we're saying. And every decision comes from what's best for the athlete, nobody else. So back to the main point, when an athlete has a game the day before or the day of training, their training looks completely different, absolutely different from anybody else's. And that even goes for the week of. We have the Trinity Titans going to play a very pivotal game this week at State. Those kids aren't doing just absolute dead freaking sprints the entire time. My Trinity athletes did not do any sprints this week because they have some amazing games, some amazing things to do. Now, is sprinting before a game a bad thing? No. But if we're trying to track mileage, if we're trying to track data, and we're trying to make the most informed decision for these athletes at the end of their season, when they're run down, when they're tired, when they're mentally fatigued, the best answer, high-level plyometrics, get that stored energy out, get them really ramped up, hit the recovery, and go play. So the long answer is this. The amount of work and data and decision making that we put into this decision for is this best for the athlete is undeniable, insurmountable, and absolutely absurd. So when it comes down to it, I hope that everybody can grasp that every decision that is made is this best for this athlete? Not the collective group, not Origin Performance, not Colby Wortman, and nobody else but that individual athlete.